So yeah, we're back in the world of Helldivers 2 and got some good ones to talk about today. First off, we got a really cool player-made transmutation sheet that I think a lot of players can benefit from that could make unused resources useful. Also, we got some really awesome ideas and showcases of a few key features players have been asking for. And finally, players are still getting kicked and the devs are taking ideas to fix the issues. We got an interesting one to talk about in this one, so let's begin. What's up everybody, welcome back to the Soccer Gaming channel where you can stay up to date on all things gaming. If you value these awesome quick updates and detailed build guides, leave me a like to help push this video out to the algorithm. But if the content wasn't for you, change it to a dislike. So yeah, check out this post for the devs consideration transmutation, because some of us are not good enough at the game to even beat 7+ to get super samples. So as you can see under the ship management, he has a transmutation tab, and it will give 50 common samples to become a rare sample. I think that's a little high. 10 rare samples to become 1 super sample. 200 common samples to become 2x of something. I guess he's just kind of wondering, like it could be something that's interchangeable. And then 5 super samples become 5 medals. That's actually pretty decent, and it will cost a little bit of cash, and it'll have a little bit of residual burn so players can actually get something out of it, because right now I'm actually capped out on all of my super samples and such, so I don't really need to like buy anything from the ship stratagems. I'm wondering if the dev team is actually going to be using those materials to add mods or upgrades to your gear, because I'm assuming gear is going to get upgrades and stuff added to it later on, like other games in the genre. That may be the case, but yeah, this could be really good for players who are not capable of doing 7+ reliably. You can actually get off some of those samples to get yourself some medals. Moving on, let's look at this post from Falcon Brigade. Here's a demo of what some armor sets might look like when using the main color of other sets. I also added a few new colors too to try and create more range. What do you guys think of changing armor colors? Is there more than one color per armor needed? So yeah, this is one of the most requested features, not only from me, but people in my friend group, is having different armor colors so that they can look a little bit different and unique. Because right now in the game, whenever you're using certain armor types, you just can't like mix and match them, because the helmets don't really go well with the other body. You end up looking pretty stupid, and generally I don't like most of the helmets in the game. I'll say I like a quarter of the helmets in the game, and they just don't really look that good together, and having the ability to change the color of the armors would help out a lot. Now obviously the Helldivers color is like this yellowish and black mixture that they do a lot of, but it does look like the medics have white, and a lot of the other armor pieces does have some type of other coloration, and I think this would be a really good idea to add to some of the modifications that you could do in the armors. Again, like I said in the previous point, I do feel like they're going to be adding armor mods to the game, but for now some color palette changes would really help the immersion, because again, I'm a big fan of changing the colors of things, because I do not like the base colors of most armors. So check out this post over on Twitter from a user named V. I've been removed from matches due to using a single stratagem or particular weapon that the host didn't like. People will kick for the tiniest reasons. On the upside, those matchups have been few and far between, but frequent enough to be notable. Now the CEO responded with, "This is so shitty, also very hard to solve. We have some ideas but no conclusion. You know what? Let's try this. Hive Mind, do you have a design suggestion to help improve this experience?" Now before I go into some of the suggestions, I do want to say I've actively only been kicked a total of 2 times since playing this game, and I have well over 200 hours in the game, and I play very much a good amount of time, so I'm not seeing the same level of being kicked compared to some of the players. I'm 110% convinced that most of the people who are saying they're getting kicked are actively doing something to get themselves kicked, because I see it in my game every single time I go to a match. There's some people doing some very specific things that are kick worthy. I don't kick them, of course, because I know they're just not paying attention. They probably just don't play the game enough to know, but I'm almost 100% sure people are just doing dumb stuff and they're getting kicked for it. That's not to say people aren't like trolls, because there's always going to be trolls, but with so many players saying that people are kicking me, I've even seen people say that they've getting kicked 90% of the time, where obviously if you're getting kicked 90% of the time, it's very clearly you're doing something wrong. But anyway, let's go over some of the suggestions and let's talk about them. So one of the first suggestions would be, it would be helpful under recent teammates to highlight the person who just kicked you, so you can block them in return and hopefully never get matched with them again. Now I don't think this is the greatest of ways to like block each other, because this actually doesn't solve the issue, because he's kicking you for a reason, you're getting kicked for a reason. So I mean, again, there's always someone that's going to be trolling, but I do think there is a bit of like player responsibility that's not being owned up to from a lot of players. I would rank that one as a more middle ground. It's not great but not a bad option. Check out this one. I think this is objectively the best option, and this one is, would it be possible to apply a way to penalize someone for kicking X amount of times within a given time frame? Say someone has kicked 10 within 30 minutes and get flagged. Now this one is a much better solution, probably arguably the best, as someone who's kicking to be a troll will very likely keep kicking, and then they can like get flagged and you can take action on that. This is probably the best option, again, because players who are trolling will just kick randomly and they'll be within a certain period of time, so it's more accurate than someone just kicking you because you feel like you didn't do anything. Finally, to what I think is objectively the worst one, and this one's from Mitch. One option would be vote to kick. Another would be only allow someone to be kicked within X amount of team kills, or if they died a ton and are slurping up all the redeployments. Now, the reason why I think this one is objectively the worst is, one, vote to kick is never good because no one's actively paying attention in the game. That would require players to pay attention, and that player would still continue to troll, as most players are just kind of just seemingly mindlessly just playing the game. The other reason why I think this one is terrible is because of, like, if they're dying a ton and using redeployment, there's actually two sides to this. There's the one player who has no clue what they're doing and constantly dying because they're standing their ground and fighting. And there's, like, in my instance, where I go into parties where I'm playing with players who just don't do anything and just stand their ground and just fight the mobs after mob after mob after mob, and I actually go do objectives by myself and I clear like 75% of the objectives by myself, but because I'm actively doing things, I slurp up more lives because I'm doing everything by myself, which can in theory lead to me getting kicked out for doing all the work. So that's why I think this one is objectively the worst, but still some decent options here. Either way, it looks like there's going to be a lot of updates and things to come to Helldivers 2. The implementation of transmutation, the recoloring of armor, and an effective way to combat the supposed unjustified kicking is clearly going to need a bit of time to sort out. In the meantime though, the video on screen now goes over some pretty awesome tips that could save your mech in the thick of it. Check it out.